Many of you are probably aware of the feud between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Started a long time ago. They divorced, accused each other of domestic violence. An audio recording was released showing Amber Heard basically admitting she was the one abusing Johnny Depp. The latest update in the past couple of days is that in a new audio recording, Amber Heard is bragging about how no one will believe Johnny Depp because he's the man and she's a small, slender woman or whatever. Basically highlighting a problem that's existed for a long time for male domestic abuse victims that, for the most part, women know that the courts are going to side with them, the cops are going to side with them. Well, now we have a recording of it. But I did talk about this with my buddy on the Timcast IRL podcast, and the reason I'm bringing it back up is that we have another story in a similar vein, but we're seeing something interesting happen with the response from feminists. It seems to be quite hypocritical. When it came out that Amber Heard was bragging about how no one will believe Johnny Depp, sure enough, we saw many intersectional feminists and leftists saying, you know, we got to make sure we always protect the victim, be it a man or a woman, a male or female. We have another story. You see, Kesha accused Dr. Luke of abuse, essentially. I mean, more extreme than that, but I'm keeping the language light. And she is now being ordered, apparently this was found to be defamatory. She's in trouble. And sure enough, what's the response from the same intersectional feminists in basically the same day? Our legal system is broken. Yeah. Here's the thing. Basically, Kesha accused Dr. Luke that he abused Katy Perry. And Katy Perry said that's not true. The court ruled that was defamation. Sounds like Kesha was spreading around false accusations. You would think, once again, with evidence suggesting the man was innocent, the feminists would take the same approach they did with Amber Heard. But they won't. You see, with Amber Heard, they have absolutely no choice but to admit she was the abuser and she was bragging about it. With this, Katy Perry denying any wrongdoing, they'll just say, oh, she's internalizing misogyny or whatever. So let's actually start, and let me give you some context, and then I'll show you the comments from some of these social justice activists and what I would say is their hypocrisy. Amber Heard dares Johnny Depp to tell the world he was a victim of domestic abuse. See who believes you. Just days after leaked audio tapes proved that it was Amber Heard who subjected Johnny Depp to domestic abuse during their marriage, in another 30-minute phone recording between the former couple from 2016 released on February 4th, the Aquaman actress is heard daring her ex-husband to tell the world that he was a victim of physical assault and see how many people believe you. The actor is heard arguing with his then estranged wife, pleading with him to settle their dispute out of court as airing the dirty laundry in public was ruining his professional reputation. You're effing killing me, the father of two says. You've turned me into my boy goes to school and has kids go, so your effing dad's a wife beater. You don't think about that, Amber. Heard, in turn, counter-argues that she was the one who feared for her life after receiving threats from Depp's bodyguards, and not the other way around. They then begin discussing an instance in Australia a month into their marriage when the top of Depp's finger was severed. While she maintained that he did it to himself while drunk and high on ecstasy, he claimed the injury was caused by Heard throwing a bottle at him. I'm sorry because the last time it got crazy between us, I really did think I was going to lose my life, she said, and I thought you would do it on accident, and I told you that. He replied, Amber, I lost an effing finger, man. Come on. I had a effing mineral can, a can of mineral spirits thrown at my nose. That was then she resorted to threatening Depp with playing the victim card. You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge thinks. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, a man. I'm a victim too of domestic violence. And it's a fair fight and see how many people believe or side with you. Wow. Well, here's what ends up happening. I frequent this subreddit who's probably going to get mad at me now for criticizing them, called Gamer Ghazi. It's one of the culture war social justice subreddits. They refer to themselves as SJWs. It's not super big, but they do aggregate a lot of these stories, and you can see some of their opinions. We have two posts you can see. Kesha's claim about Dr. Luke to Lady Gaga were defamatory, judge rules. And below it, Amber Heard dares Johnny Depp to tell the world he was a victim of domestic abuse. Here's what I find so darn funny. When you go to the Amber Heard story, we see comments from people saying, an ex-girlfriend I had who harassed me until 2019 after we broke up did the same sort of thing to me. I'm sorry you had to go through it. You did incredibly hard thing to do. You should be proud of yourself. Wishing you all the best. When the story is so definitively provable, it actually reflects the men's rights activist argument, which I find actually kind of funny. If you go to the men's rights subreddit and look, you'll see a lot of similar comments Women shouldn't do this. It's abuse, yada, yada, yada. I think what we're seeing here, and first, I think they had to basically admit it because the narrative keeps getting worse for Amber Heard. Many of these feminists and woke intersectional types went after Johnny Depp, targeting his career and trying to smear him when the proof became basically, undeniable. I mean, there's still a lot of missing context, but we basically know what happened to a certain degree. Well, they have no choice but to say Johnny Depp was the victim. And by their own argument, they must defend the victim, right? Believe victims. So naturally, they come out and say, this happens to us too. Well, I'll tell you what. I respect they're making the right choice. And they're presenting the correct argument. That we should believe and protect all victims regardless. Because, before, they just jumped at Johnny Depp and blamed him. What do you think happened when the Kesha story broke? Let me read the Kesha story. They say, today, New York State Supreme Court Judge Jennifer G. Schechter made a significant ruling in the long-running legal battle between Kesha and producer Luca's Dr. Luke Gottwald. According to court documents viewed by Pitchfork, the judge ruled that Kesha made a false statement to Lady Gaga about Gottwald, and that was defamatory. The defamatory remarks mentioned in the court documents refer to text messages that Kesha sent to Lady Gaga, in which Kesha claimed that Gottwald raped Katy Perry. Schechter noted that Perry denied the claim, adding that there's no supporting evidence to back up Kesha's message to Gaga. Publication of a false statement to even one person here, Lady Gaga, is sufficient to impose liability. The judge also rejected Kesha's series of defenses, including that Gottwald is a public figure. Schechter argued that Dr. Luke isn't a household name. Interestingly, they say this. The judge also ruled that Kesha was in breach of contract with Gottwald's company, KMI, due to late royalty payments. Kesha was ordered by Schechter to pay $374,000 in interest. Gottwald has been suing Kesha for defamation since 2014 after she accused him of abuse. In counterclaims filed in 2016, the singer asked the judge to rule in favor of voiding her contracts with Gottwald and his business entities. The bid was denied. Let me just stop you for a second. Apparently, it seems Kesha was trying to get out of some contracts. She accused the guy of doing something she didn't have any proof of, and also claimed that he had raped Katy Perry, which she denied. Maybe he did, I don't know. But as it stands, when I look at the evidence, she was trying to get out of a contract. She accused this guy of wrongdoing, asked the judge to use that as a basis to terminate a legal contract, which he denied. And then it turns out Katy Perry said that didn't even happen, at least to her. And so she's been ruled against. Did you think that would be enough for these, woke outrage feminists to actually understand the evidence is on Dr. Luke's side? Fortunately, no. When you have an audio recording of Amber Heard say, what are you going to do about it? They kind of have no choice. But when it's a court ruling, of course they're going to say, behold how effed up the Western legal system is. What do you mean? Katy Perry said it didn't happen. She was trying to get business contracts voided. Why would you assume she's telling the truth? You need evidence. And look, I'm all about protecting victims. That's the point of this. Who is the victim? We don't know. And honestly, I don't know a whole lot about Dr. Luke, but she was trying to break a legal business contract and asked the judge to do so. He said no. And Katy Perry denies it. The evidence is against her. It seems like she made a false accusation, just like Amber Heard did. Yet you can't put two and two together, can you? The U.S. system is very different to the rest of the Western world on libel laws. It varies hugely country to country. But even if the public figure exemption is weird, it's hard to argue that Dr. Luke was a public figure on matters of assault, not including the assault case as well, no. I can't get any angrier with how she's being treated. This is why sexual assault victims don't come forward. Why? Because when they make dubious claims, they get held to a legal standard. When Katy Perry denies that what she said happened, she loses a defamation case. I'll tell you why people don't come forward, particularly people like Johnny Depp, because you attack him and try to destroy his career when it turns out he was the victim. These people are bullies. They're not doing anything for real victims. Just assuming that abusers are victims and assuming victims are abusers is not a standard for anyone. I'll tell you what a good standard is. Innocent until proven guilty. That way we know if someone is accused, we're not going to falsely blame them. I'm sorry, if someone is a victim, we're not going to destroy their lives and make things worse for them. Think about how awful this must have been for Johnny Depp. I don't know, look, we don't have the clear and definitive evidence in the Dr. Luke case, but I can say Katy Perry denied it. Think about how you would feel if someone accused you of some serious offense to a friend, and you knew it wasn't true, or the person who apparently you had harmed says it never happened, and so you and your friend are like, dude, this never happened. They're lying. Don't believe them. Think about your reputation going around when people accuse you of abusing someone and that person is with you denying it. So look, I don't get it, but I think it plays into what I've talked about many times, that there's no real standard for what makes you social justice approved. If a court rules that you were defamatory and wrong, a witness comes out saying what you said was not true, and you have another case where Amber Heard, basically admits no one will believe you, Johnny, you'd think you'd at least in both circumstances be like, I believe the simple principled thing on both cases. This is where you can see there are no principles here. The only reason they care is because they have no choice in the Amber Heard case. But when it comes to the other case, it doesn't even matter if Katy Perry denies it. They just don't care what Katy Perry has to say, do they? I wonder what they would say to Katy Perry's face when she's like, it never happened. She's lying. It's not true. What would they say? I don't know. But I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.